to another episode of A Beer with Atlas. I'm Rich.
And I'm Brian.
And continuing on with Mainstream May.
Yep.
We're going to do dad beers this time. So
beers.
Beers your dad drank.
Yep.
Unfortunately, no, maybe you might have surprised me. I don't think you found Michelob, which was my dad's beer of choice.
No, I didn't. I went to like 7 stores this weekend looking for that sort of thing.
Yep.
Which has been off my radar for about 10 years now. So I had to like retrain my eye. But I could not find Michelob. I just don't think, if they still make a straight Michelob, it's not available here.
I don't think, and maybe brewery only or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, that was. Remember the weird bottle? Like that was my
Had the
dad's
shape.
beer. Yep. For whatever reason, I'd love to know the history of that bottle, but
Maybe
so,
someday we'll get it.
maybe.
Yeah.
In your research, you'll run across why that beer was shaped. The bottle was shaped that way.
That's true. I will.
So, dad beers. We're going to tell a couple dad stories. We're going to reminisce about our dads. Maybe some dad stories about when with our kids and stuff.
Our kids and our dads. Yeah, we'll see. This might need a disclaimer, man. This could be like the most emotional, in-depth episode we do.
It might be a little dusty in here.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know,
some
because
remodeling or something.
my dad passed away 20 years ago. Oh, wow, actually, Riley will be 20, so Dad passed away 21 years ago.
Yeah, mine's like coming on 14 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might head down that road. We'll see what happens.
Whew, okay, here we go.
So I chose all these beers.
Okay.
And I kind of wanted to surprise you, so I think you know only for sure one of the beers.
Only one of them, yes.
And I stayed away from a couple standard ones.
Okay.
Because I think there's a good story in those if we want to do it. So like Coors Banquet beer, I did not bring.
Okay.
Because there's kind of a whole history with that, and I think we could get to that at a later date if
That'd
we
be a
wanted
fun
to.
one to do later, yeah.
And then just straight up Budweiser, because I think we've talked about it or had it or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to miss that since you didn't.
I'm going to reach into,
Here.
we're going to start out with this one right here.
All right. Oh, Hams.
This is Hams.
Hams. I could sing you these theme song.
Could you?
Yeah, it was a commercial.
Should you?
The beer. From the land of sky blue water. I'm not very good singer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Ham's the beer refreshing. With the ham, with the...
You're right.
With the bear, right? Fishing.
Use the bear.
Yeah.
How do you know this?
They advertised during cartoons because it was a cartoon advertisement, and back in the mid to early 80s, that was okay back then.
You could have cartoon bears
You could have.
selling beer to
Absolutely.
children.
From the land of sky blue waters.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because I have some history on that. So the first thing we need to do is crack this thing open.
Okay.
And we're going to get after it. So I'm going to set the table for us figuratively. We've got red Solo cups, which is helpful. And I brought a cooler. So if you ever met my dad, he 1,000% always had a cooler with him. And it always had beer in it. So this is par for the course. I could have brought them in a sack today, and I was like, no, I'm going to get the cooler out. We're going to do this whole thing right. That thing is pouring just like water.
Yeah,
Look at that thing.
It's so clear.
Oh my goodness.
So it's a lager, is this right?
Yeah,
Is
most
it
of
a
these are
lager?
all going to be lagers.
Okay.
So this is one of the other breweries that I did a little research on.
Okay.
So we'll get into a little bit of the story of Hams and kind of the advertising. That's the area I researched, was that bear. So I'm
Interesting.
glad you remembered that.
I remember that bear vividly. Brewed in true family tradition from the purest water and choicest barley malt, grain, and hops.
I think that's good beer.
Well,
I mean, I'll drink it. There's only one place I know of, Dolan, in all of Omaha that has this on tap, and it's at Reverb. This is it. You can only get it there, from what I know,
This
on
is
tap. It's
good.
good beer, right?
This is good.
Yeah.
Why is this not a thing?
It is a thing. It's been around. Here's the thing. They've been around since about 1856.
Okay.
So we're talking pre-Civil War beer. Guess what? German guy came here, went to Chicago,
Those Germans are awesome.
right? Making beer. So he had a friend that owned this brewery, and he couldn't afford the mortgage. So this guy said, you know what? I'll take it over for you.
Okay.
So he paid the bill and took over the brewery. And his name was Theodore H. Ham. And he was a butcher by trade.
Okay.
But did know how to make beer. And then he took it over. And the brewery was near Fallon Creek in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
It was then named the Theodore H. Ham Brewing Company in 1896. So about 40 years after he gets to Chicago, this financial transaction takes place and he takes over the brewery. So it had operated for a while before he came in. Before the bear you were mentioning before, their promotional stuff had an eagle, which is very American and USA sort of stuff, and it was on lots of things. And other beer things we've talked about in the past had eagle representation. In 1945, they hire a new marketing company, and that's where that Land of Sky Blue Waters comes from. That campaign was created.
Yep. What year was that?
1945.
Oh, wow.
So World War II.
Yeah.
And the bear was created in 1952.
Okay.
Lots of theories on where he came from and who did it, but the story seems to line up that it was drawn as a cartoon on a napkin at a place called Freddy's Restaurant in Minneapolis. So whoever created it, there are people arguing that they did or I did or you did or whatever, but everybody seems to know it was at a meeting that took place there.
Are there typically bears in Wisconsin?
Well, it's in Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. I'm sorry.
So I think yes.
Okay.
Black bears, maybe?
Sure.
I don't think I know of any other kind that would be up there.
Okay.
But yeah, so
All right.
the bear happened, and the reason they chose the bear was because of the woods. It's an animal of the forest, and in this part of Minnesota, it's lots of trees and wilderness, and they wanted something to tie into that wilderness feel.
Lakes and rivers and
Right.
and sky blue water.
And the way that you sang that song, it's definitely stuck with you for a long time, and that's
forever.
on purpose.
Yep.
Other 50s ads, because this started in 1952, and popular songs in general and a lot of advertisement back then used racial stereotypes and like
Okay.
pulled from things, and they hit the Native American one for this. So if you'll go back and you listen to the commercial, which I did look some up on YouTube, it's like a Native American drum beat. Like that's the music of the thing. It's like
Yes.
like that.
Yep,
And then they
yep.
sing their song.
Oh man.
So it's not a rip off, but it's like this is where it comes from, right?
So it's an homage to.
Yeah, we would
to-
say that now.
Yeah,
and
okay.
and up in that area, there were a lot of different native peoples for a long time in that area. So it was something like that. And that bear, kind of like some of the other advertising icons we've talked about before on the show, there's a big market for collectibles with him. There's clubs that people like buy and sell, especially signs and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I found things, banks, playing cards, calendars, placemats, napkins, salt and pepper stuff, and then schedules. So I was talking to Aaron Daly about this because he's our local Minnesota guy, and he was tied to the Twins for a long time. So you'd get like a Twins schedule, like on a card, and it would have the bear. It would be
Hams bear.
or sponsored by Hams or whatever. Let's see, and then. Let's see, baseball, football, and hockey. So he was all up in the sports up there. So just tied to activity and being outside.
So him and Paul Molitor hung out. Then maybe.
Maybe.
You never know.
1969, the advertising agency, they're done. They don't do the deal anymore. They go a different direction. They hire somebody else.
Okay.
And there were no more, the bear was not in the commercials anymore at that time.
Interesting.
So the bear never drank a beer, ever.
He was fishing.
He was just kind of fishing or doing. He's kind of like clumsy, is what I read as representation of him.
He was kind of like the Yogi Bear.
Basically, is what it
kind
looked
of.
like. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he only spoke one time, and you already said what he said. Well, I guess kind of. He said, "It bears repeating." That was the only thing he ever said, because they say the same thing like 3 or 4 times in the commercial,
Hams, the beer refreshing.
and that makes no sense to me grammatically. I don't know why they said it that way, but it was always that way.
But in the song, God, they repeat it,
Yeah.
and then it hams.
Yep.
At the end.
Wow,
yeah.
that's crazy that you remember that.
Yep.
I never heard it before. I mean, I heard the phrase, but I'd never seen a commercial or heard it or anything.
This is the first hams I've ever had. Now it took me to age 44.
Well,
have one
there you
now,
go. The bear came back in 1973. He was wearing a red jacket and a plaid vest and a shirt and tie, so he's kind of like a 70s sportscaster looking guy.
Sure.
He was there, and then he got a name that year, which was Theodore or T.H. Bear, and that was the only time he had a name.
Oh, okay.
At the brewery, he had a name, and I think it was Sasha, but it was never like publicized that was the bear's name. That's just what the people that worked there called him.
It was just like the kitschy name for him or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay.
And then in 2000, he was named runner-up most influential Minnesotan of all time by the St. Paul Press.
Well, you don't have a whole lot to go with there, so.
And 2000 was the last time he was in any advertising for Hams. So he's been gone. 2017, Ham's beer sales went up 74.6%. So it became like a hipster beer.
Oh.
Not unlike PBR.
Like PBR.
It had a real big upswing back then, too.
Yep.
This is one of those, and it has just exponentially grown. And it's available most places now. As far as like grocery store, that's where I got it, Hy-Vee, by my house.
Interesting. You know what I find is I'm looking at the can, right? It's a very German style looking can with a little, with the lion with the sword and the crown and all of that, and it's under the government warning that every beer has, right?
Yeah.
Underneath that government warning, 2 words: Union Made.
They were big on that.
That's the only time I've ever seen that on a can. Union Made.
That was a big thing with Hams. And there's, I guess, one of the other breweries we're going to talk about today had a little bit of that too. But
I could drink that all day long.
It's pretty good, I think.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So I have a friend that his name's Chris, and this is like the only beer he'll drink.
What? Really?
He is, and he's like 30.
Okay.
And like this is it.
No Bud Light, no Coors Light.
He won't go to a place if they don't have Hams. He's like, no, I'm not drinking. He will drink nothing
Interesting.
unless there's Hams. Then he'll have a ham.
I'll always find something to drink. Sadly, I've been on this weird Bud Light Lime kick or whatever. After that's a good lawn mowing beer.
Yeah.
Just because my regular lawn mowing beer has not been available here
Right.
recently, and so I thought, well, I need something.
What's your regular lawnmower? That sounds like a dad thing.
It's definitely a dad as I get older or whatever. Yeah. My regular lawn mowing beer is Sierra Nevada's Otrevez. It's their Goza.
They have it in cans this year. I saw it.
I have not been able to find it yet.
Come to my Hy-Vee by my house.
Okay.
It was on sale actually, even, which is great. That's another dad thing. Get it on sale,
even
man.
Better.
Load up.
Nothing love better more than either clearance or a good sale.
My dad would call me. Of course, this was after I was 21. He would call me, and he would say, "They got Bud Light at Super Saver case, $16. That's a great. You cannot pass that up.
You can't pass that up.
I was like, all right, Dad.
Yep.
And I took his advice because when I was 21, that's what I was drinking.
That's what you're drinking.
Yeah. So my dad, his beer drinking evolved over time.
Okay.
He was a big proponent of whatever is cheap. He was a cheap drinker.
Sure.
And I think that part of that was his job was, he had a good job. He worked for the University of Nebraska in the press room.
Okay.
But it wasn't like he wasn't making money hand over fist. And then, a 1980s divorce happened, and then child support, and then that sort of thing. So it wasn't like he was laying around in cash.
No.
So he had to get what he could get, right? So a long time, his beer choice was, let's see if I can get it out here.
Going back into
Busch Light.
the affectionately named Busch Latte.
Busch Latte. He called these blue yummies.
Blue
That's
yummies.
what he called them.
That's what the mailman called them.
I mean, that's right. Maybe my dad was the mailman. I don't know.
Well, he might be old enough. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think that is just a common
Yeah.
moniker for them. Busch Latte, Blue Yummy. Yeah.
So that's what he would usually have in his cooler. And then when I got to be like of drinking age, a little bit closer, he would splurge and he would get Bud Light, and that was his big thing.
That's the fancy beer for him.
Yeah, I mean that was good living. That was like a good paycheck day. Gonna have Bud Lights. So that was something that I got from him.
Again, just super clear. No, very little definition to it at all, but easy to drink. You can. What's the beer term here? Crushable.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I don't know. We're gonna see. This is one of those beers that I've convinced myself over time I don't like, and it gives me a headache when I drink it. So we'll see. I'm kind of like anti Busch Light. I don't drink it. I've had Busch before, just
Okay.
straight one, and I don't know if you can find that anymore or not.
You can. Yeah, you can.
But this is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just bought. So I went to a barbecue over the weekend, and my job was to bring beers that everybody would like. Right, so I didn't bring super fancy stuff or whatever.
No milkshake IPAs.
No. So I got an 18-pack of Busch Light, and it was maybe $14, maybe.
Yeah.
Instantly sweeter than Hams, right?
This one is,
Sweeter.
way sweeter.
A little less carbonated, maybe.
Yeah. I definitely prefer the Hams.
I do too.
So far.
Yep.
But this is one, people swear by this one.
Oh, yes.
I have a friend this is like his beer, and we give him crap about it all the time.
Drink what you
'Cause
love,
he does
though,
drink.
right? I mean,
He is like a high-end stout and whiskey guy.
Yeah.
But then when he's not doing that, he's like slumming it with this. I'm just like, man, it's like wearing sweatpants to church. Why are you doing this?
I get it though. I mean, I go back and forth. Bud Light Lime, Coors Light, Busch Light, and I don't like Bud Light at all.
Yeah.
But Bud Light Lime is just refreshing.
I'll drink one.
Yeah.
I sent you a picture the other day. I had one. I found it in my old beer fridge in the garage.
Yep.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just don't want, and I want to say waste. You don't want to drink a really good beer if you just want to drink it, right? If you're just like, if you're just pounding through.
Let's say you've had maybe 2 beers, right? We're gonna go on a low end 2 beers.
Okay.
Maybe you feel like you need a third beer. You don't necessarily want a $14 stout can.
No.
Just reach in the fridge and have these. I'm a big proponent of having some sort of beer like this around.
Yep.
But it's not for me. Not going to be Busch Light.
I don't mind it. It's okay.
I mean, that's all right.
I suppose if I had to choose, and maybe we'll get to this, I don't know, but if I had to choose, like, what am I grabbing if it's not the lawnmower and Bud Light Lime? It's the Coors Light.
Okay.
I enjoy a nice cold. It's got to be cold though, man, because if it gets warm, it's rough.
Yeah.
But it's got.
That's probably true most of these, I would bet.
Yeah. But yeah, nice cold Coors
Do they still
Light.
do the can that turns blue? Is that still a thing?
When the mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's awesome? When you're in Colorado and you're drinking a Coors Light and you look up and you see the Rockies, and then you look at your can and you see the
It's blue.
Rockies.
You're like, wow, this is my best life.
It's
So tell me a childhood beer story, Rich.
oh man, from like my dad, for whatever reason, and maybe we'll get to this. I don't know, because I think they still make them. My dad would splurge every once in a while on Lowenbrow.
Oh, yeah.
Lowenbrow,
I've seen those, yeah.
fancy. So that was kind of my
It had a lion on it, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fancy, super fancy lion. That was maybe one of my first experiences with beer early on. Not good. It was not. Yeah.
They never end well.
The scene in Shazam where they get the beers and they take a drink and they spit it out and it tastes like pee.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what I thought. We thought, nope, we're gonna hammer through these, or whatever. So whole night of that, and or whatever. Get home the next. Friends take me home.
Yeah.
Right. And there used to be the back door to the house. Open the back door. There's just like a little entryway. And they carry me in, drop me on the floor, and I just lay on the floor right there. That's where I slept. And Dad gets up, and of course knows one is Lowenbrow's gone.
So you took him from your house,
Yeah,
drank him
absolutely.
somewhere else, and then came home?
And then came home. So stupid.
my
Not very
goodness.
smart. Yeah, we're not smart at all. So I'm laying on the floor there in the carpet, carpet face. And Dad's like, "Get up. We got to mow the lawn."
Oh, no.
Yep. So I get up, and we had this big empty lot on the side of our house. So our house, and then on the other side of the driveway, big empty lot, about the size of a football field. It was giant. Like it was, and maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it wasn't that big.
Probably felt that big that day.
Oh, it did. So I start the lawnmower up, and he's like, "Nope." Put the lawnmower on the highest setting possible, and I mowed the lawn. And I got done. I'm just sweating. Come back inside, and he's like, "No, you're not done yet." Goes and he moves it one step down. And I mowed the lawn again. Puking in the yard. Mowed the whole thing. Came inside. He's like, "No, we're going to eat some breakfast." And so we had eggs and bacon. And my dad never made breakfast. Never. He's making bacon and sausage and whatever. Sends my mom to the store, and she comes back, and we have pancakes. And he's like, "Eat." And I'm eating. Like, "Nope, I'm not eating." He's like, "Yep, you're eating."
Oh, my goodness.
Eating. He's like, "Oh, get back out there." Dropped it down one more setting or whatever. So then I'm puking in the yard. He's like, "You're going to clean that up." And 4 times, man, 4 times he ran me through this.
Wow.
And it was, it was probably a good 2-3 weeks until I drank beer again. But
You sure learned your lesson.
I totally did
Homie
not.
didn't steal his. Wow.
Well, I just didn't.
I'm surprised as a dad he'd let you mow the yard.
Well, it was the side yard.
Oh,
it was
so-
all just pretty much weeds and dirt anyway.
Gotcha. So it wasn't that one. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
My story, this is one that my mom's told me, and I 1,000% believe it's true. When I was a baby, like old enough to walk, I would just be wearing a diaper, and we would be in the basement at my parents' house. This is back when there was like no cable TV. And my dad and his best friend would get together, and they would drink a bunch of beers in the basement, long neck bottles. And they'd watch Benny Hill.
Yes.
You familiar with Benny Hill?
Yeah.
So Dolan Benny Hill is a show. It's a British show. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Three Stooges-esque, like slapstick comedy. It's real dumb British humor. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I remember about it was like had a lot of scantily clad ladies in it.
Totally.
And a lot of like there's a song. It's that one. There's a name for the song. I can't remember what it's called, but that would be in it.
Yes.
And they would just drink beers. And I guess as a baby, I would walk around and I would take the bottles out of the trash can and drink what was left. And they thought that was hilarious. And my dad would leave me a little bit so I could get a little bit. So
man.
that was like my first round of beers.
And it was always the somehow on Benny Hill, somehow the woman's blouse would always come off. Right, and so she would just be in her bra, and then they'd be chasing her around, and it'd be like that, like little speed, like sped up. And they'd be around, they'd play that music or whatever.
And then I think he was usually in drag too.
Sometimes
he would be, and that was like every episode.
Oh,
I mean, you've told the whole show. That's it, and that was like the same time every week. It was
6 seasons worth right there. I explained the whole thing.
That's Benny Hill. So apparently, when you have no cable, and it's 1982.
That's what
you
you're
got
watching.
Some beer. That's what you're watching.
All right, I got another one for you here. This one's a little sad actually.
All
but
right,
it's good. I'm still on my Busch Lights. If you want to dig in for the next one, let's.
Oh, I'm still on the Busch Light too.
Okay. So, freshman year of college, I moved out, and so I'm freshman year of college. I'm 18, so I graduated high school when I was 17. Moved out. Kansas is playing Kansas State in basketball. Kansas State won for whatever reason. This should have been 93. Kansas State won. So we thought, let's go to Manhattan, which is an hour and a half away, and let's go party or whatever. Because 18, you could still get into bars. It didn't really matter.
Okay.
Or we could find something or whatever. So we load up a cooler, and we start driving. That is such a bad idea.
Yeah, it sounds
such a bad idea. So luckily, the person driving was sober. She never drank at all, which was great for us. She'd drive us all over the place. She just wanted to hang out, and it was fine. So we got probably 30 minutes outside of town, and there's a DUI checkpoint, and we got pulled over. And sitting in the back with a whole cooler full of beers and whatever else. So, we spent it wasn't in Cloud County. It was in, I can't remember the county right next to us. Anyway, but my dad had a friend that lived there, really good friend, worked on cars together and stuff. So it wasn't published in papers or anything like that. So they would never have known. I wasn't living at home or whatever. And I had to go back, do community service and, that type of thing. Spent the night in jail in the jumpsuit and all that. Only for minor in possession, right? That was it. Anyway, so fast forward not many years, a couple years later, Dad's sick. He's in the hospital up here in Omaha. And we're talking or whatever, and we were talking, I can't remember why we got on the subject or whatever, and he was like, oh yeah, I remember that time that you got arrested in whatever county it was?
Yeah.
I'm like, how did you know that?
Yeah.
Or whatever, and Mom had left the room, and he goes, don't worry, I won't tell your mom. And he kind of winked at me, and so I told him the story, and so...
So one of those. So how did he know?
Because his friend, his buddy lived in that county. So, I have no idea what this beer is, but that looks fun. Yeah, so his buddy lived in that county and saw it in the newspaper that, hey, isn't this your boy that got arrested for an MIP?
And he never told you before that?
No, it was years later.
Oh man.
Yeah, never.
That's
told
a cool dad move.
That's right. Yeah. And my dad and I didn't have a great relationship, so that was kind of one of those things that sticks with me a little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, this one, what we've got here, this was a late edition. This was the last edition. Because I was talking to Aaron Daly yesterday. I was like, hey, we're going to do these dad beers. And he's like, did you get Grain Belt? I was like, why? He's like, my dad drank a bunch of Grain Belt. And I was like, well, we didn't have this. This is a Minnesota brewery.
Oh.
So this is another one, like Hams, that's from Minnesota. It's been in Nebraska, in and out a few times. It's here now again. They also make a beer that's very similar to this called Northeast, but it's with a D, not Northeast, but Nordeast.
Nordeast, no.
And this is just a straight lager. Going to be very similar to what we've kind of already had. It'll be just a sample of that. But this brewery has only been around since 1947, so it's a newbie.
It's a newbie
for us. But yeah, so this might be your first Grain Belt experience.
My first Grain Belt. So the bottle reminds me of Miller High Life.
A little bit. a little bit, and it does have kind of like a old school 40s, 50s vibe on the bottle cap. I guess the best way to describe it is it looks good on a beer sign. Like if you walk into a small town bar and they have one that has, like a Clydesdale horse for Budweiser or whatever walking through and it's a clock or something, like this design looks good on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead or do you need it? Nope. Yeah, there you go.
A couple new solo cups here.
I'm just going to keep going.
Unlike back in high school, right, when you wrote your name on your solo cup and you don't lose this.
Don't lose it. And don't put it down because somebody might use it for a spitter.
Pick it. Oh, God, that's the worst.
That's terrible.
That was the worst. I'm going to finish off my Busch Latte here. And so far, I'm going to go Hams, then Busch Light. I think is my if I'm ranking in rank order here.
That was a heavy pour. Sorry about that, Nolan. That was an accident.
Oh, not much left. There.
Yeah, he'll get a little though.
There's enough Busch Latte in there that he could.
Yeah, he'll have that. So I bought this. This is on purpose. I have this at my house. This is going to be my lawn mowing beer.
Really?
Yeah. Just something light.
Have you had it before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
It smells interesting. It smells. It's very grainy, kind of a wheaty kind of smell. Oh,
it's kind of in the middle.
It is kind of in the.
It's not. It's got a little sweetness, not as much as the Hams, but it's way less sweet than the Busch Light. I feel it's light. It's a little darker in the glass, though.
That's true. Once you pour it, I don't know. It's kind of both. It's kind of in between, which it's nice.
I mean, this is the style of beer, and if you weren't getting a Budweiser, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Which I don't even know if it reached across the world or the country like it did now. A lot of places, even here in Omaha, like Falstaff Brewery, they were making this kind of beer. Everybody was making this kind of beer.
This kind of beer.
Everywhere. This is it. This is what beer was until the 80s, basically, in the United States.
The friendly beer. It actually says that on here. August
Shell. Yeah, so
Brewing.
like Shell's Brewery. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
So they're in Minnesota. They make you would love it. They have a whole like Berliner Weiss series. They do like cellar series.
Yeah.
With different fruits. I had a black cherry one of those before. It was really good. And a blackberry. They come in big bombers. They're called North Star, and they're like $10.49 a bomber. And there's a guy in Omaha that has all of them, and I think they've made 30. So he has like a 30 bottle vertical of this. Oh my! That brewery's sour bomber set. So it's kind of a big deal.
What would your dad's opinion of your my dad would punch me in the mouth if I said I'm drinking a blackberry beer or whatever.
Yeah, I tell anybody that will listen to me, especially my father-in-law, because towards the end of my dad's life, him and my father-in-law became like best friends.
Okay,
which was kind of cool.
That's interesting.
And they would hang out without me.
Whoa.
They would hang out all the time.
Really?
They would meet for beers after work, and like they would go to the Eagle Raceway and go watch the races, and like they were bros. And they were crushing Busch Lights and Bud Lights, So I always tell him, my father-in-law, because he's the guy that goes with me now on like beer bus stuff, and he really is my dad now.
Yeah.
And I tell him all the time, I am so glad that my dad is not around for IPAs and like Imperial barrel-aged stouts. I'm like, it would have been bad. It would have not ended well.
Yeah.
We would have had some issues. So I always tell him, like, I'm glad he checked out at the right time before this whole craft beer thing.
Oh, man.
He would have probably been on board because of the alcohol stuff. But I don't know that he wouldn't be drinking Berliner Weisses with sour candy in them or anything.
No, yeah, my dad's not. He would not have done that.
Yeah.
No.
My dad was he was open to try something new. Yeah. I mean, that might have been Bud Light Ice or something, but
yike.
He was open-minded at least.
Sure.
To go with that.
See, in similar fashion, my dad checked out right before kind of the internet really took off, and so he would have been addicted to eBay.
Oh, really?
100%. Yeah, he would have been, because he was the kind of guy that would go, like, they go to Walnut, Iowa, and go to the antique stores or whatever.
Right.
We're driving back from Colorado, and we'd drive through small towns just to look for dumb little antique stores. Right? He would drag me into these things, and that's probably where some of it came from.
I guarantee. What did he collect? What was he looking for?
You know,
Just whatever?
It depended. It was whatever. I mean, for the longest time, it was railroad memorabilia because that was he did early in his life.
So he worked there and just had that tie?
Date nails and lanterns and globes. Like the globes that went in the lanterns on the railroad was super collectible.
And they're really expensive, aren't they?
Super expensive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, back in the 80s, there was
Maybe
no
not so much.
eBay, right?
Yeah.
So it was all kind of just priced accordingly, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, there were books about them and stuff.
But yeah, if you're in Colorado and you've got a lantern for sale, somebody in Cincinnati wasn't buying that thing.
Right.
Like it could be now. So
Yep.
that makes sense.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things. I definitely feel like I'm turning into my dad in a lot of ways. Like if I take my glasses off, I look like my dad, which is weird to me. I have, unfortunately, the body shape of my dad. And that's not great.
Yep.
I mean, it's not even dad bod. It's like a little bit past dad bod, but that's okay. It's kind of funny when you like really step back and think about, especially since he's been gone for so long, like how much you inherited just through DNA.
Yeah.
Just like you had no choice, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like my dad was a social butterfly. He loved to be around people. He loved to make people laugh. He loved to have a cooler of beer. Like that was going down. Wherever he was at, it was like a party.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And like I definitely see that with me. I'm trying to always be the entertainment.
Sure.
You know, even at some personal cost. I'm trying to make somebody else happy, even if I'm not. Like,
Right.
That was him to a T. And that's, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see that. And then now that I have a kid, you know, trying to figure out exactly what do I want to pass down on purpose and versus things that are just going to happen and that whole scenario. But
why is it
interesting?
Do you feel like, as one dad to another here, do you sometimes feel like you have zero idea what's happening and somehow like your dad absolutely knew what to do all the time, no matter what?
I feel, well, I can answer your question. I don't know what's going on for sure. Until my son, I had never really even held a baby.
Oh,
right? Like
yeah.
I was anti-babies. I didn't want to have a baby. I wasn't going to do it, you know, that sort of thing. And then the flip side of that is my dad had no idea what was going on either.
No?
No.
Okay.
He did not have it put together. He had a long history of like mental health stuff. So just being around was good for him. So there was no like plan or, you know, it was just, let's go by the seat of our pants every day. And when he would come and have us for the weekend, I'm sure he'd probably thought about what we're going to do, you know, like we're going to go out and do this and do that on a shoestring budget. You know, we're going to do the free stuff. We're going to go to the state park because I bought the thing, or we're going to go fishing, or we're going to do all that sort of stuff. So I do take from him trying to make memories, because that was something that was very important to him, like traditions and memories and stuff. So I do take that from him, but I know he didn't have it put together, and there was no like real great plan. There was like momentary glimpses of the plan, but there was no like it's written and set in stone sort of stuff. So,
But don't you remember thinking as a kid, you know, there were times when they had it all figured out, like they were the parents or whatever.
my mom's that way.
Okay.
My mom was that way. And for me, my mom, after my parents got divorced, my mom was my mom and my dad for quite a while.
Sure.
So she's that way. My dad was more of, I definitely get my thinking from him. Like, let's just sit in a room and think about shit. And like, let's think about how good things can be and how bad they can go. And let's go down like 100 yards down the path and see where we're at. Like that was something he liked to do. And I find myself there quite a bit, unfortunately.
That can be a scary place to be sometimes.
In your own mind, it's not great sometimes for sure. So, but yeah, that was him.
Interesting.
He was like a dreamer, you know, in the clouds, and my mom was the anchor, the tether.
More
And that's
grounded.
a lot like me and my wife's relationship is the same way.
Interesting.
I'm emotional and a thinker of that sort of thing. Like I will spend a lot of time thinking about stuff that really doesn't matter, or worrying about things.
Sure.
And my wife's just like cut to the quick, and this is it, and this is what we're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. She has the plan in our house.
All right. Next one you just pulled out of your
My little cooler.
Your cooler.
This is a PBR original Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Like the original,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I still have refrigerator magnets that my dad owned on my beer fridge in my garage. They're just the PBR like logo.
Yeah. It says since 1844. So far, this is the oldest
Wow.
that we've had.
Oh my gosh.
It became the Blue Ribbon. We kind of talked about it.
Super clear. Once again, another lager, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about this with Heather on an episode
Yes, we did.
about Chicago and like that serial killer guy. The World's Fair that was there that year in 18. I was like 96, I think, or 92. And this is the beer that won the Blue Ribbon that year. This was the best beer at the World's Fair.
It actually won a blue ribbon.
Yeah, and that's why it's called Pabst Blue Ribbon, because it was the best beer in the world in Chicago in like 1890.
One time.
Hey, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Hey, if you're world champion, you're world champion, right? It
You
doesn't.
can't take your banner down.
Yep. All right.
PBR. So this is a hipster favorite.
You know, I've never had a PBR.
Wow.
Never.
So 3 out of, is it really 3 out of the 4 you never had?
3 of the 4 I've never had. Yeah.
man,
Dolan,
I did
PBR.
good,
Have
Dolan.
you ever had PBR? Yeah. Oh, he's shaking his head like
If you're a
like I'm an
musician,
idiot.
you have had a PBR
Yeah. Okay.
because it's usually affordable. It's usually like a $2 tall boy or a bottle.
You get your drink tickets from the venue.
Yeah.
And it's usually just PBR or
Old style.
Busch Light or Bud Light. And
Yeah.
It's PBR.
PBR is the choice, you know. But this is another one of those beers that has kind of made a comeback. The hipster crowd, and it's kind of like it's cool to drink it.
Sure.
A couple years ago, they had a really neat like old retro '50s advertising campaign. So it was like actual images from the '50s that they used to use, and they put them on the bottles. So that was cool. So like every 12-pack or whatever had different pictures or something.
I don't know. It tastes just like the other ones, kind of. I mean, it's maybe they're all just blending together.
They're
at
probably
this point,
they
but-
are probably blending, but they're also the same style.
Yeah.
So there really shouldn't be a whole lot of difference. This is also, I believe, from Milwaukee.
Way closer to hams, maybe, than the other two. So not sweet.
Yeah, not sweet.
No.
I don't like this style of beer. This is one of the things that usually turns me off.
Mild, not bitter. So I started looking these up. So hams didn't even show the IBUs.
Yeah. I mean, they can't be probably in the 20 range, I would bet.
Pabst Blue Ribbon, 10 IBUs.
Yeah.
So just nothing.
I mean, there's some
4.6 though. This might be one of the higher ones.
They
out
put
of-
hops in it just so they can say it's a beer. I mean,
true.
That's about as much as you're going to
They
get.
just like
in this.
dip the hops in the
They
water.
put it in and
maybe?
they take it out. Yeah. It's like a
In
bay
there.
leaf in the soup. Just put it in there for a minute and then take it out. But this is another one that you're going to get anywhere. This is like dive bar beer.
Absolutely.
And this is another one that, well, I know a lot of people drink it all day long.
$1.50 tall boys.
Yep.
All day
I mean, if you
long.
go someplace that says they got dad beers,
Yep.
like a special, they're going to have this beer for sure.
You have to wonder, how different does this taste on tap versus in the cans?
I don't know. This is one of those beers that you don't usually find on tap.
No.
I mean, maybe a special occasion you might find it someplace. I don't know that I've ever had it. Dolan?
No? Any band venues?
He's saying no. He's thinking. He's like, how many places have I had PBR this week?
No.
Just 2. Yeah.
Even like in Chicago, I in some of the Wrigleyville bars or whatever. I mean, for the most part, it's all Budweiser and Old Style.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Well, and these are Milwaukee. I mean, this is a Milwaukee beer. And Hams is a Milwaukee beer.
Yeah.
Well, it's Minnesota, I guess.
Dundee's Place.
Dundee's Place?
72nd and Cass.
72nd. Oh.
Or Blondo. 72nd and Blondo.
Oh, on the corner.
It used to be in Dundee and then it moved
What's it called?
Dundee's Place.
Dundee's
Never heard of it.
Place. Never heard of it. I know where 72nd and Blondo is, but
Or Cass, depending on which Dolan you ask.
I guess exactly.
Jeez, how many have you had, Dolan? Huh? No. So yeah, I don't think I've ever had it on purpose. On
No.
tap. I've never seen it really.
I don't mind it. It's good. I'd order it.
Yeah. I mean, so where are we at now with the ranking?
Oh,
'Cause
boy.
now we're 4 in.
Oh gosh, darn. Hams, and this could change.
Yeah, probably will.
Hams Grain Belt
Whoa.
PBR Busch Light.
So all three that you've never had are
Yeah,
ranked higher than the Busch Light.
Higher than the Busch Light. And here's the thing: I would still choose Busch Light. Is if you're just reaching
That's
in,
muscle
right?
memory.
Right.
That's why I'm doing this. This is why I was in charge of these beers.
And
today.
quite honestly, there's the two middle, the Grain Belt and the PBR, are interchangeable. at
They're
this
pretty
point.
close.
Yes.
But at Hams, it just stands out.
It
And you know what
does.
else stands out about Hams? It was $3.99 a 6-pack. Don't spit it out. It's $3.99 a 6-pack. I mean, that's economy prices. That's Southwest Air prices.
That's union made prices right
That's
there.
exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And man, it tastes good.
It does.
It has all that history.
Next party I go to at Mike Combs' house,
Roll up with this, man. I'll tell you what.
I'll be the coolest guy at the party
Well,
for $4.
at least you'll be at the party.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll have some beers.
Yep.
Let's see. I was gonna do. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but I talked about it. How about you? What are some things that you are like your dad?
Oh man, some of the shit that comes out of my mouth sometimes is just. One, my dad liked to curse a lot.
Okay.
He was and so that carried over with me. Unfortunately, my son now likes to curse, and so now we've had this conversation before, right?
Right.
It's very hard to stop. It just happens. It just happens, and.
So have you told him like, hey, it's okay to do it here, or you shouldn't say it at all?
I've
sort of
told
situation?
him Maddox is so much different than Riley and Scarlett. So Riley and Scarlett are my two older daughters. This is a fun dad story on my side. I was right after I got divorced. I was living in my little apartment there in Bellevue, and Scarlett was, I don't even know, maybe 2, maybe, and so that would make no. Scarlett was like 3, so Riley would be 6. And I hear from the other room watching football. I'm making dinner in the other room. I can't see the TV. And from the other room, I hear, "Damn it!" And I'm like, "Riley, what?" And she came in and she goes, and you can't, obviously, since this is a podcast, you can't see, but we're watching football. And she goes, "The referee, he said like this," and she made the holding call.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, which way?" And she goes, "This way." So it had been holding defense.
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, what's the red team? Red team's on offense." I'm like, "That's good then."
Yeah.
Holding defense. She's like, "Oh, okay." Like, if you're going to curse, you need to do it right.
Yeah.
And from that point on, Riley always did it right. Scarlett would get me in trouble. Scarlett would, this happened one time, daycare. She ran into the room. Oh, gosh, she's probably 5 or 6 years old at the time. Ran into the room. And she goes, "What the hell is going on in here?"
Oh,
Yeah.
she used it right.
Yeah, well, she used it right, but
Yeah.
I got in trouble for that. I don't know
yeah.
where she would have heard that from.
I never use that phrase.
No, I go to church every Sunday. I don't.
My phrase is a lot saltier than that one.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things that's definitely one of them. Another way that I'm very similar to my dad is the hoarding, collecting gene. I definitely carried over, and it drives my wife crazy. I don't think she understands at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have that. I like to stop at random places now and or whatever, and yeah.
I think it's cool. It's a lot of that stuff it's like a history lesson in a way. You know, a lot of that stuff is old and it's got a story to tell. I think it's fun. But I'm also a major collector. I mean, I started as a kid with baseball cards, and then I've moved up to, I did hats. I've been a hat guy for a long time, and then it became beer. And I was like getting all the beers I could get, and not drinking them, and just saving them for special occasions that never happened. And so I've collected everything, anything and everything. I've had it. So
that definitely carried over. And then, because I remember later in life, my dad, he kind of, he would roll up with old cars. So right before he got sick, they would go out and they would just drive in the country. And this is Kansas, right? So middle of nowhere, Kansas. They'd be driving back roads in the country, just looking for old cars that were just parked.
yeah,
Right. And him and all of his friends, they happened, and I'm sure a lot with that generation, they were all Vietnam vets. And they found an old Studebaker, like
40s.
Yeah, like 48 probably, had been like halfway sunk in the mud. They took the whole day to dig this thing out. They went back the next day, put it on a trailer, brought it home, and my mom was like, "What the hell are you gonna do?
Yeah,
What?
another car. No.
What are you doing with this?" Anyway, so they're pulling this thing off the trailer, rolling it down the trailer, and one of the tires blew. So there was still air in one of these tires for
geez.
all that time, and it sounded like a gun went off.
Like that.
Ooh, this beer scares me right here. Okay, so we'll try the Schlitz here. So to finish up that story, tire blew on the car, right? All the guys, the Vietnam vets at least, every one of them hit the ground.
Really?
Instantly hit the ground.
Like you'd seen a movie.
Like exactly like you'd seen the movie. And then they all kind of and they all got up and then or whatever. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Wow.
Or whatever.
Well, this is crazy that we're drinking Schlitz. I'll say that.
Schlitz. This was kind of one I thought, okay, as we're going to do these, I assumed, I kind of assumed hams. I kind of assumed PBR. And then I had mentioned this multiple times because I think it's just kind of a stereotype, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is this a malt liquor?
It's not, but it has a little bit more malt in it than what we've had today.
It smells different.
It's definitely darker.
It's way darker.
Yeah.
Never had it before. Oh. That's malty and delicious.
Yeah, right?
What's happening?
It's malty and good.
What?
Yeah. Puts a little monkey wrench in things, don't
That
it?
totally does.
Yeah, this has flavor.
Weird. Okay, what's the ABV on?
I don't know. That one I don't know.
Doesn't say.
So I did a little research on Schlitz today.
Okay.
It's a brewery started in 1849 by a guy named August Krug,
Okay.
which is a name that we have here in Omaha, Krug Park.
Krug Park.
The beer bar that's here in town.
Lots of dudes from that time were named August.
Yeah, it's a German name.
Okay.
And he was a German dude. He had the brewery for a while, and then a guy by the last name of Schlitz came there, and he worked as a bookkeeper.
Okay.
He's like, I'm going to be an accountant for you. And then Mr. August died, and Mr. Schlitz said, you know what? Your wife's still around. How about I marry her and inherit this brewery? Bada bing, it's now Schlitz Brewery. So that happened, and then that was in Milwaukee. And in 1902, this was the biggest producer of beer in the United States. Like, totally. Like, nobody was making more beer than Schlitz
Okay.
in 1902. Their slogan, I know you've heard it, and I think there's even a song called this, maybe, Dolan, or maybe a band. The beer that made Milwaukee famous.
I don't know if I've ever heard that. No.
Oh, really? That's their Sky Blue Waters thing.
Okay.
So they're the beer that made Milwaukee. Although Milwaukee's had a lot of different kinds of beer, this is the one. They were Schlitz Brewery all the way up until 1982, and then they got bought out by 80s perennial beer Stroh's. You know that one?
Yes. Yes.
And then Stroh's sold to Pabst in 1999. And then 1999, they had it all the way up until, I think it was 2014. And then that was sold for $700 million. They sold it. In 1970, there was a new kind of owner and brewmaster rolled in, and he was trying to cut costs. And they stopped using so much malt, and they started using corn syrup, which we know is a big thing nowadays. 40 years later, people are still complaining about it.
Bud Light would have something to say about that.
Yes. In 1977, this is kind of what started their downhill slide. So the beer itself changed. The flavor was different. And then 7 years later, they started airing these commercials on TV.
Okay.
And the commercial was basically a big, like, burly biker or lumberjack-looking dude. And he was talking right into the screen, so he's, like, talking to you. And he's admonishing you because you, as the viewer, has suggested maybe you should drink a different beer. And he basically is threatening to beat you up because he loves Schlitz. He's like, this is what I'm going to beat your ass. This is mine. I'm drinking Schlitz. And then people are like, that's pretty aggressive.
That's aggressive.
We don't really like that.
Yeah.
We're not going to buy your beer. And then, let's see. The brewery where they made this in 1981 was sold to make this new upstart beer called Budweiser Light.
Oh.
So the original Schlitz brewery was then repurposed into make Bud Light, what we know now. And then in the 70s TV show Laverne and Shirley, they worked at a place called Schatz Brewery in Milwaukee, which was basically a fictional Schlitz Brewery.
Oh.
So that's where you see the bottling line, and they put the glove on it, and then it goes around, and they wave to it. That's a seminal thing that
Yep.
people our age know.
The little thing, the song's going through my head, or whatever.
Yep.
So
We're gonna make it. That
yeah.
song, yeah.
Here's another thing too. This is super weird. Why I would remember little things like this or whatever. Maybe because I watched a lot of TV when I was a kid. I remember the first Budweiser Light commercial,
Yeah.
and I remember the little jingle
Really?
or whatever. I just remember the end. It was Budweiser Light. That's it.
I remember the Miller Lite commercials, like the taste great, less filling.
Yes.
And Bob Uecker was in them. And I remember one was like in a spaceship or something. It had like some lights. And everybody was fighting about, why was the reason you drank it? Because it tasted great or it was less filling. So like light beer really wasn't a thing until the early 80s.
Here's a dad thing that I do all the time now. When I get
right.
the good parking spot at Walmart, like the
Yeah.
front row parking spot,
Right.
I must be in the front row. Always say that from the Bud Light or from the Miller Lite
Yeah,
commercial.
you have
Bob
to.
Uecker.
Front row.
Oh, I must be in the front row, and then they put him back in the right. You know? Yeah,
Yeah.
still say it to this day.
And everybody hates it too, I bet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or they
That's
just
great.
don't understand.
They don't
it,
even
like,
know why you're referencing it.
No, they have
but
no
it's
idea.
canon to you.
Yep,
I like that.
exactly.
So that's Schlitz. What do you think of that one?
weird. It's so.
It's got
hard
a
to-
total like 60s, 70s design, that maroonish purple color, and a lot of these are, if you can tell, like the hams and the PBR. Well, almost all of them except Busch Light are like dinosaurs as far as their advertising, and that's probably why I like it. I'm really into like retro-y and vintage looking things, and that's all of those. This one is not. This looks like you'd have this at a NASCAR race.
Yeah, the Busch
I'm out
Light.
with that.
Yeah,
But the other ones all look like you could have been in that decade and drank those beers, and they wouldn't have changed.
kind of that globe logo on it right there. Like you expect to walk into a dive bar and see a clock
A clock or a glass mirror with some gold over the top.
that's all yellowed from when you could
Smoking,
smoke
yeah.
in there. That's all yellowed from that. So, all right. So going into beer number 6 here, I'm going to go Hams, Grain Belt, Schlitz, PBR, Busch Light.
Busch Light. Okay. All right. Well, this is the last one, and this was a transitional beer for my dad, and this was also the first beer that I started drinking.
Oh boy.
So, as a 20-ish person, year old, we didn't have a lot of money. I was moved out of my parents' house.
Yep.
I was making. I thought about this last night. $5.25 an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had a house, and I split it with my band.
Okay.
And if we had any money left over and we got some beer, we were getting this.
Don't pull it out yet. I'm going to
All right.
guess. I'm going to guess just based on the time frame.
Yeah.
It's Keystone Light. It is Keystone Light.
Boom. Keystone Light.
You could buy a 30 Stone.
30 pack of Stones, $9.99 usually.
Yes. So cheap.
Or Red Dog,
Oh, the Red Dog.
and then Ice House. Remember that?
Yep.
So the grocery stores would rotate your sales, Dolan. Every week there'd be like a $10 special. So you could get a cube of Keystone Lights for $9.99.
Jeez.
So between 4 guys, a 30 pack lasted a day
Yes.
because it goes down so good. So it says right on here now, it's a Coors owned beer.
Yep.
And you used to be able to get it in a bottle. I think you probably still could, but this was a beer that my dad would have.
You want a new cup for this? You want to go new?
I've had the same cup, so I'm going to keep rolling with it.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
going to open that for you.
All right.
But this is another one of those.
I was just reintroduced to this a couple years ago. We had an 80s party. No, we had a 90s party. And so I bought a 30 Stone. And now it's like $12.99. Like it's a little bit more
You're like,
expensive.
I don't know
now.
if it's worth that.
Yeah.
30 beers for $12. You're like, no, it's too much.
Nah, it's not. It's
Too rich for my blood.
It's not half bad. It's
Wow.
not. I mean, it tastes like water.
I bet I haven't had a Keystone in at least 15 years.
Really?
Yeah. Out of all of these beers, this is the one I have not had.
Let me look up the Keystone Light.
Although I probably have had it and checked it in late night sometime, but we'll see.
So back in Kansas, we called these K-State Lights.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
The K-State Light. Yep.
Boy, this one
4.2.
is just like clear, like water in a glass.
Yes.
Even more than the hams, which was pretty clear.
IBUs, NA.
They don't have any. There's no hops.
None.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't write down the number of rankings. All of these are over. Like I went through on Untapped and wrote down their own rankings. Or their rankings here. Every one of them has over like 10,000 rankings.
Holy smokes.
All of them.
some of the ones we have had like 100 or 200 check-ins. So,
Absolutely, yeah. The Busch Light has like 103,000 rankings. So
I mean, there's definitely in Untapped, there's badges you can get for domestic beers. So that's about the only reason you would check these in, because you don't really want to. I don't know. At least for my group of friends, I don't want to claim I'm drinking Keystone Light on a Thursday night at my house.
no. But it'll do in a pinch.
It will.
Yep.
It'll do as beer 6 and dad beer. I'll tell you that.
So if we had to go through, let's go through all 6 of these now. Which one do you think has the highest Untapped ranking?
I'm going to go PBR. That's what I'm going to say. PBR and then hams.
The second highest.
Okay.
Oddly enough, Grain Belt has the highest.
Okay.
3.19, which really surprised me.
3.19?
3.19.
That's still really low.
It's
A lot of the beers we do are like 4.2,
I know.
4.5.
Yeah.
3.19 is the highest?
The
oh,
highest.
my goodness.
Look, here's the thing. If my dad were still alive, he would not be on Untapped. Not.
No.
No.
Unfortunately, I had my dad do fantasy baseball one year, and he was the guy that never checked his roster. He had
Yes.
like 8 guys on DL, so he would not be on Untapped either. I don't know. He would even know how to work a smartphone.
So Grain Belt 3.19, PBR 2.79, then followed by Schlitz at 2.77, Hams 2.63.
See, that's a crime. Ham should be way higher than that.
Right? And then finally Keystone Light, or I'm sorry, Busch Light at 2.37, and then finally Keystone Light at a whopping 2.01.
Oh my gosh, that's the lowest beer we've ever drank. I don't even know if I can call it
Lowest
beer.
by far. This is like Flint, Michigan bottled water.
This is, but it's still better than Busch Light.
It is.
I guarantee. Oh, I would drink
Yep.
that all day versus a Busch Light.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
That's the worst for sure for me. I think if I had to rank it, which I'm going to do, I would go Hams, then Schlitz,
Okay.
Grain Belt, PBR, Keystone, Busch Light.
So this is weird. So we only disagree on and
Just those middle. The
honestly, yeah,
maltiness,
those
probably.
are. It really could. The middle 3 could kind of interchange. Hams was definitely the best. Then Grain Belt, Schlitz, PBR kind of could just interchange with each other.
Yeah.
Then Keystone Light, then Busch Light.
Yep.
Yep.
There we are.
But why is it that? Is it just distribution that Busch Light is everywhere?
Yeah.
Is it marketing? I guess
It's-
maybe.
Well, I mean, it's a cheaper version of Budweiser. I mean, it's made by Budweiser, right?
Right.
But it's cheaper than Budweiser or Bud Light.
Yeah.
So you can get it. You can get it in those big 30 packs.
Yep.
I remember last year they had camo cans for some reason.
Yeah. It's like the fall can, like it's the
Yeah.
hunting can,
Yeah.
or can.
But it's I mean, it's everywhere, and it's not good. It's everywhere, and it's not good. So go ahead and just surpass that. Just go past that one. You don't need it.
Step out a little bit and try one of the others that.
Try a regional beer like that. A Hams or a Schlitz. Like there's a negative connotation to those names. I feel like probably I wish I would have been able to find a Michelob or Old Milwaukee, but I'm definitely okay drinking a Hams or a Schlitz. I can tell you that.
That's so weird that like it's still okay to drink Budweiser. It's still okay to drink, like a Busch Light or a Busch or whatever, but not Schlitz or Hams or PBR. Or...
I mean, there's a subset of folks that are the hipstery type that are bringing these kind of beers back and making it a little bit more okay. 10 years ago, yeah, you weren't telling anybody you were drinking a Hams beer.
No.
An Olympia, that was another one I was trying to find.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't get that. They used to have it in Lincoln, but when I was there last weekend, the place that used to sell it did not have it anymore. So
All right.
there was quite a few I looked for.
One last dad story. Give me one last dad story for you.
Let's see. Probably the one that sticks out in my mind that is kind of related to beer, but it's also more a testament to me and my dad and like my whole trajectory of life. My band used to practice in this big old warehouse where two of the guys worked, and we could set up our gear and leave it all plugged in, which is amazing, as Dolan knows. You don't have to tear it down. It was set up place. We just moved, and even the drum kit, we just carried it down and set it up. We didn't have to tear it down. It was amazing. We went there and practiced, and it was way on the other side of Lincoln, and my dad lived in Benton at the time, so it was like a 45-minute drive for him. And every once in a while, he'd get a wild hair, and he would come and watch us practice. And he would bring his cooler, and he'd have his beers, and we would have our beers in there, and we would, just have fun.
Yeah.
And it was, playing Rolling Stones and Beatles covers and, our original stuff, and just loud as possible out in the middle of industrial in Lincoln.
Sure.
So one night there's a huge thunderstorm, and he's like, all right, I got to go. It's raining real hard. I'm going to head out of here. And it's raining so hard. And where he had to go to get back to where he lived, there was a bridge that was a train track. So the train was above. You had to go underneath to get past the train, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And that was notorious for flooding. So if it rained at all, it was full of water.
Yep.
So he got that far, and it was like so flooded. And I think his truck died. So he came back. He walked back, and he had his cooler of beer. He was soaking wet. He had a Budweiser floppy, like those like late 90s floppy hats.
The floppy hats, yeah.
And it had the frogs on it, the Budweiser frogs. He had that hat on, and he was like a drowned cat. He was soaked. And he walks in. He's like, well, I ain't going anywhere. Let's have another beer. So we had another beer and played some more music. And that was just him to a T. Just always looking for fun and listening to music and, laughing and just trying to have a good time wherever he was at. So
that's an awesome story.
That's what I think about when I think of him.
Mine's not nearly as cool, but kind of how you assume when you're a teenager, your dad isn't paying attention to what you're doing or whatever. And we had the Nintendo right about the time the Sega came out, and so the Sega was the commercials on TV. Remember the guy who goes Sega?
Yep.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That was the commercial or whatever. And we just assumed that Dad, he took no interest in this whatsoever. So we were playing the video game or whatever. He came into our room. He stood there for a second, and then out of nowhere he goes Sega, and then he walks out. And we
Like,
we
what
looked
was
at
just
each other
happened?
like, what was that?
Yeah.
So he kind of was paying attention,
Yeah.
maybe. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can't get past dads,
Yep.
it seems like.
Exactly. So, well, I hope you enjoyed our dad stories. I hope you enjoyed our kind of reminiscing.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of fun to, I don't know. I think about it a lot, probably because he's not around, but just the kind of person that I am really ties back to him, and just a lot of the stuff kind of ties into beer, because this was something he was always looking to do, was just have fun and be with his friends and make new friends. He never met a stranger. He was that guy, and so this has been a good episode for me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been good for me too.
Hasn't been good beer, but it's been a good time.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, hams,
one.
sneaky.
Yep, $3.99 a 6-pack. Do yourself a favor.
Pick one up.
Yeah,
for sure.
take 2 of them. Spend $8. You'll be the life of the party.
You will be.
Right there. So, all right. I want to say next week. I don't remember what next week is. I do know that.
I think it's Blue Moon.
Is it Blue Moon?
I
next
think it
week?
is
That's
Blue
right.
Moon.
Okay. So
I got a good story with Blue Moon, personal story. So
I love it. All
Yeah.
right. Virtually everyone's gateway beer is Blue Moon.
and you can get it everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can get it easier than you can get a hams.
So we will talk about Blue Moon next week. The week after that, we're going to visit the 2019 Men's Journal winner of Best Beer in the Country. They just announced it just a couple of days ago. Yes.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Yes, that is the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Really?
Yeah, virtually, yeah, you can get it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. Like it was Ken Grossman's first beer. Like that was the first one they brewed, kind of, if I remember the story right. So yeah, still around after all these years.
Cool.
Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll do that one in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, so enjoy some dad beers this weekend.
Work on your dad bod.
There you go. Yeah, definitely let your belt out a loop or two, and
Definitely.
gosh, you're definitely not going to have any chicks around for that one.
No.
All right. We'll see you next week.